In 2019, a Russian geological survey team operating in the Sakha Republic, the coldest inhabited region on this Earth, reported something they refused to put in their official report: thermal imaging captured from a survey drone at 2:14 in the morning during a blizzard. 7 heat signatures, each one approximately the size of a large elephant, moving in formation through a forest where no elephants have lived for 10,000 years. The lead scientist, a woman named Dr. Irina Morozova, filed the drone footage under equipment anomaly. She told her team never to speak of it. She has not spoken of it publicly since. But in the village of Badagay, the coldest permanently inhabited settlement on Earth, where January temperatures average -51 degrees Celsius, an old man was already awake that night. He had heard them coming. He knew they would come because 3 years earlier, in the winter of 2016, they had come to his door, and he had helped them. This is what happened. His name is Alexei Vershkov, 74 years old when this story takes place. 5 feet 9, hands like bark, eyes the color of frozen river water, pale gray, very still. He had been in this part of Siberia for over 4 decades. Not because he was forced to be, not because he had nowhere else to go, but because at some point, the forest had become more real to him than any city had ever been. More honest, more consistent. The forest, he once wrote in his journal, never pretends. He had a daughter. Her name was Masha. She lived in Yakutsk, 800 kilometers south. She called him on a satellite phone twice a year, once on his birthday, once at New Year. Their conversations lasted about 12 minutes. On average, he treasured every second of them and never told her that. He had survived 42 Siberian winters. He had seen things in the taiga that he never wrote down because, he said to himself, some things belong to the forest and no one else. January 14th, 2016 was about to give him something that tested that rule completely. He had known this storm was coming for 3 days. The birds told him first. They always did. The Siberian jays disappeared from around the cabin 2 days before a serious storm. They found deep shelter and stayed there, conserving energy with a discipline that shamed most humans. When the jays left, Alexei paid attention. Then the reindeer moved through, a herd of perhaps 40, moving south at a pace that suggested urgency rather than routine. They did not stop to graze. They moved with their heads low, ears back, that particular hurried quality of animals that know something large is coming. And then, the silence. By the afternoon of the 14th, the forest around the cabin was completely silent. Not the ordinary quiet of a cold winter day. Something deeper. The kind of silence that feels less like an absence of sound and more like a presence. By 6, the wind was building. By 7, it was a full blizzard, horizontal snow, visibility less than 3 meters. By 8, the temperature had dropped to -47. He sat in his chair, journal open on the table, writing. The entry for that evening is preserved. His daughter keeps it now, in a frame, on her kitchen wall. In Yakutsk, it says, "Storm is full now. Northeast. Bad one. Wind sounds wrong tonight. Not just wind. Something else in it. Stay calm." The last 2 words, and he wrote for himself. A vibration, deep, rhythmic, like the slow heartbeat of something impossibly large. In 40 years alone in the taiga, Alexei had had encounters with animals that would make most men never leave the city again. He had had a brown bear sit on his roof for 6 hours. He had walked into a pack of wolves feeding in the dark and backed away slowly, without a sound. He knew animal behavior. He knew fear. And right now, pressed against his cabin wall, in the dark, he was forcing himself to think rather than react. He noticed they were not breaking anything. Whatever was outside was not striking. It was leaning. That was different. He took one long or slow breath. He pulled his heaviest coat from the peg by the door. He wrapped his face. He put on the doubled wool mittens. He checked that the axe is on the hook beside the door. Not to use as a weapon, just to know it is there. And he opened the door. 7 of them standing in a loose semicircle around the front and northeast side of his cabin. Enormous. The largest one stands perhaps 4 meters at the shoulder. Her coat, dark reddish brown, dense and long, layered like a winter forest floor. Her tusks curve outward and upward, pale and massive, the tips lost in the blowing snow. They are not charging, they are standing. He held the lamp higher, and then he saw her at the back of the group, lying on her side in the snow. Young, her eyes are open but unfocused, her breathing rapid and shallow, and around her left shoulder, barely visible beneath the snow-crusted fur, a dark stain, blood. She had been injured, and the herd had brought her here. He worked as quickly as cold, stiffened fingers allowed. The antiseptic hissed slightly against the frozen edges of the wound. She flinched, a deep shudder through her whole body, but she did not pull away. She watched him throughout all of it. She watched him. He spoke to her, not words exactly. A low, steady sound. The same kind of meaningless, gentle noise he had made to every hurt creature he had ever helped. The stitching took nearly 30 minutes. His hands stopped working properly. Twice, he had to press them under his arms to restore circulation. The cold was brutal. The wind was trying to erase him from the landscape. But he finished every stitch. He was trying to stand when the young male moved. Not a full charge, more like a hard shove, the way young animals express distress through movement rather than intent. But at that size, moving at that speed, intent was beside the point. The tusk caught him on the left shoulder and put him sideways into the snow. He lay still. He had learned this from bears. Stillness is the only language animals in panic understand. 5 seconds, 10. Then the matriarch was there. She placed herself between him and the young male and made a sound. Low, rolling, more vibration than noise. And the young male backed away immediately, without further argument. He finished every stitch. He was sitting in the snow, 50 meters from his cabin, in a temperature that kills exposed skin in under 2 minutes, unable to move. For the first time that night, he felt afraid. Not dramatically, not with panic, just a quiet, cold recognition. This could be how it ends. Then, a warmth on his left side. The matriarch had moved. She stood beside him, angled to place her enormous body, directly between him and the northeast wind, a living wall. The temperature in her wind shadow was perhaps 15 degrees warmer than it was in the open. Enough to matter, enough to live. He pressed his hands under his arms. He massaged the knee. He flexed it slowly. The joint unlocked with a sound like a branch cracking. The pain was considerable. He stood. Anyway, he put one hand gently, briefly, against her side. She did not move. He walked back to his cabin. He slept 4 hours. When he woke, his left shoulder had stiffened to the point where he could not raise his arm above chest height. It would stay that way for 6 weeks. 3 fingertips on his right hand had frostbite. His knee was swollen so badly he could only walk with the aid of a stick. He made broth. He drank it standing, looking out of the window. Most of them were still there. The young female. He was on her feet, unsteady, head slightly low, weight shifted away from the injured side, but on her feet, eyes open, breathing, steady. He walked toward her, slowly. He stopped, 3 meters away, and simply stood there, looking at her. He did not feel like a hero. He felt simply present, as if he had been exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was supposed to do, and the universe had neither rewarded nor judged him for it, just continued. Then the herd began to move, one by one, without drama, without announcement. They turned northward and began walking back into the forest, back into the trees that would swallow them completely within minutes. The young male passed within 20 meters of him. He did not stop. He did not look at Alexei, but as he passed, he angled his path, perhaps 3 meters wider than necessary, a distance that meant nothing unless you were paying attention. Alexei was always paying attention. That, he thought, is an apology. The matriarch was last. She paused at the tree line. She turned and looked at him across the white field. A long moment. Then she was gone. The trees closed behind her. The forest went silent. In 2019, 3 years after that night, a geological survey team from the Sakha Republic was conducting drone surveys 40 kilometers north of Alexei's location. Their thermal imaging captured something unexpected: 7 heat signatures, each measuring between 2 and 4 meters at the shoulder, moving in formation through forest so dense the visual cameras captured nothing, only the thermal imaging, reading body heat through the tree canopy, showed them at all. Dr. Morozova filed the data under equipment error. She wrote this in private correspondence that has since been shared. Whatever it was, it moved with purpose, not randomly. It was going somewhere specific, and it seemed to know where that was. The location of those heat signatures, plotted on a map, shows a path leading directly south toward a small wooden cabin in the forest, toward an old man who 3 years earlier had helped one of them survive. They came back. Alexei Vershkov left his cabin for the last time in the spring of 2021. His daughter drove 8 hours on unpaved roads to help him pack his things. He took very little. He left the weather logs on the wall. He left the preserved specimens on the shelf. He left the iron stove and enough firewood stacked beside it for whoever might come next. He took his journals, 31 of them. He is still alive. He lives now with his daughter in Yakutsk. He walks with a cane. His hands have not straightened, but they are warm, finally, most of the time. The last paragraph of those 12 pages goes like this. I have spent 40 years learning what this place is. I thought I knew most of it. I was wrong. There are things here older than my knowing, older than any map, older than the country I was born in. They are not mythical. They are simply patient. But one rule I understood. That night, the same rule that runs through everything alive when something is hurt and afraid and cold and something else has the ability to help. The world holds its breath and waits to see what happens next. I chose to help. I would choose it again. I do not know what they are. I do not need to know. I know what I saw. I know what I did. That is enough. Some things go extinct on paper, not in the forest.